Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome. Let's see who's going to join us. My name is Dr. Nicole Bramwell. Welcome to my page. And also, I'm on YouTube and also on Central Florida Institute of Weight Management. So, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. Let me know that you have joined me. Drop something in the comments, a hello, a heart, a thumbs up. I'm going to go off camera just 1 second to make sure that we don't have any trouble with technical difficulties, okay? I'll be right back. Keep letting me know that you are on. Drop something in the comments. Hello, hello. Welcome. Come on in, everyone. Let's have some real talk today. All right. Hey, Harriet. Welcome. Who else is going to join us today? Today is a fabulous Tuesday. Fabulous Tuesday. I'm going to give it 60 more seconds, probably, let's say 30 more seconds, and we will be on. Get to talking about our topic because I know you all want to hear about this. All right. So I thought I'd talk about this today because, you know, I've been doing weight management for 8 years, going into the ninth year now. And, you know, myself included, how many times, especially ladies, but gentlemen, this is for you too. We go in and we say, my belly just all of a sudden, it just doesn't look like how it looked before. And I'll share with you just personally, just being transparent, I have never had a flat belly, but I've definitely never had what I would consider a six pack. However, definitely my belly looks different now from several years ago. All right. And so there are lots of reasons why that happens. But it is something pretty significant because when you start showing that belly fat, that's actually something that, can increase your risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and it's pretty reliable. And so I know some of you have maybe heard some of my conversations before where I've talked about for women, if we're above 35 inches around our belly at the level of our belly button, then that increases our risk of high blood pressure, diabetes, and hypertension, and just so many other things related to those disease processes, right? Not to mention not being able to fit into your clothes, looking at stuff in your closet saying it fits on the back end, but it doesn't fit on the front end. I can't button it, I can't snap it, I can't zip it, or the zipper only goes halfway, or whatever the case, or even some zipper mishaps, right? Trying to get into those things. So I'm going to try to, kind of demystify it. For the guys, it's actually 40 inches. So more than 40 inches around the belly. It's actually not your waist. It's actually your abdominal, what we call girth or circumference at the level of your belly button. That over 40 inches for guys is actually the increased risk. And so definitely we want to pay attention to that. I know the ladies talk about guys having bare belly and different things like that. And it's actually, yeah, that's what it's called, because that's probably the where it was noticed more initially, but definitely there are other folks that don't drink beer, don't even drink, that have more belly fat than they would like. Okay, so let's talk about that and why that happens. And definitely, we've noticed that that happens in increased ages, but we see it happening in our teenagers and even in our younger children now. And so I don't know if many of you know, but I was trained as a pediatrician, and so I was a pediatrician for over 20 years. I haven't done that pretty much in the last 8 to 9 years, not in that same capacity, but we started to see that increase of that same way of looking, you know, in younger children. And then we started to see the development of insulin resistance and increase in type 2 diabetes diagnoses and what have you. And so that's kind of what's happening when you see that. So once you start seeing that excess belly fat, especially when it's out of proportion to your other body, you see the rest of your body changing, but you don't quite see that happening, see that changing the way that you would like. Even if you have not been diagnosed with diabetes, insulin resistance happens before a lot of the laboratory type tests change. And so that's kind of where when people come to me about releasing excess weight, they come to me. And so I address that. I address what I see and different things that I hear. Other things can show up on your body too that kind of signify your body is getting basically I don't want to say nourished, because it's actually a form of malnourishment to not, to actually have insulin resistance, right? So, because you're not getting nourished properly, if we're using that word, that part of the word mal as what it's called, bad or just out of the norm, right? So malnourished would still apply here. And we tend to only apply that to people that we say are too skinny, right? Well, that's a whole other topic, and we won't even go in there, and probably stop saying that to people. They probably don't want to hear it just as well as somebody doesn't want to hear the FAT word, right? So that's just a little aside from me. So, and thinking about how we hear things and what people say and what we say to ourselves, right? Hey, Dr. Cheryl. Hey, Dory on purpose. I see you. And so when you start having that excess belly fat, you are actually in the realm of insulin resistance, whether your labs have changed or not. And that's where it's tricky for doctors, because you guys want to see the labs change first before you start doing the changes. And we're trying to catch it before you see the labs change, because then you're chasing a disease process, right? So we have to address that. So definitely that happens a lot more. I know, women that are perimenopausal, so around their menopausal age or going into menopause or in menopause or postmenopausal, that actually happens. And that's why I say that suspicious fat that shows up is actually not your fault, because if you had a little bit, it actually definitely increases a lot of times after you go into menopause or perimenopause, which means you're kind of moving toward menopause, right? And so that means that your body is changing in other hormones. So that's another thing that folks don't realize, is that insulin is a hormone. And so you're talking about your other hormones. Usually we say it's a hormonal effect or whatever. I think my hormones are out of balance. Well, you're right, but kind of right and wrong, because you're thinking that it's your your female hormones or your male hormones, and although those play a role, because all the hormones are kind of interrelated, right? And they affect one another. And so one out of balance can definitely lead to others being out of balance. And that is kind of what happens here. So in menopause, you're starting to become more estrogen dominant as far as women are concerned. And so that actually increases your likelihood of insulin resistance. That actually sets you up for insulin resistance, and you start depositing this fat. Now, why does the body do that? It's actually doing that because the body was set up to help us in stress times of starvation and what have you, so that when there wasn't food available and all of that, that your body would have something to actually work off of, work off that fat. You know, but we don't experience that much, right? Like we have enough to eat. That's part of the issue, is that we have enough and probably too many choices to eat, and we don't move around the same way that we do. We don't have to hunt for our food anymore. We don't have to go get water from, you know, 2 miles away or anything. So your activity has changed. Hey, PK, Kevin Craig. Hey there, how you doing? Um, and hey, Charlene. Um, so, we have to treat that the same. And so some other things happen when that happens. So not only now, when we say insulin resistance, what it means is as you eat, as you've learned how to eat, we all learned how to eat the same way. You can have rice and you have a meat and then you have a veggie and then you have something else, you have some milk or whatever. When you have that carb load, that's actually surging your insulin. And your insulin, so you do that over time. You can imagine you're eating 3 meals a day. Those of you that eat grits and different things like that, and even eating oatmeal, you have to be cautious. Like if I eat oatmeal, I try not to eat oatmeal now because I like oatmeal like in a big bowl with a lot of raisins. And that is like a huge setup for that insulin surge. Okay. So even though oatmeal can be good for you, you have to still be mindful of how much you're eating of it because it still is, higher in carb, right? So that actually surges your insulin. Your insulin does a very good job of clearing out what you have eaten and then break it down to the sugar that it recognizes for energy, right? And whatever you don't use gets deposited as fat. So there is that belly growing and growing, right? And so that's something that we don't like. Oh my goodness. Somebody's at the door. I'm so sorry. I'm not expecting anyone. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay, it's a delivery, right? So it's actually my products that I use to help fend off this belly fat. But anyway, excuse the dog. Hopefully I can talk over him until he stops. He's just waiting for the truck to leave. Um, Something about those trucks actually gets him going, and it probably sounds a lot different to him. All right, I think it's safe. Anyway, so once your body keeps seeing that insulin over your lifetime, so 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years of seeing you eat the same way and you keep surging your insulin, then what happens is your body, the receptors for the insulin, it has to be something that accepts the insulin so that it can work. And so those are called the receptors. So the receptors actually get turned down because they're trying to regulate what's happening. And in doing that, then your body responds by kicking out more insulin when you give it a whole big carb load. All right. And then we're just creating that cycle. That cycle keeps going. And the job of insulin, come here, let me tell you, the job of insulin is to store fat. The delivery man will not leave. Okay, so Just be patient with me, please. Okay, talk about alive, right? Okay. So I'm back. So yes, so you store, it's gonna make you store fat. And the belly is the easiest spot for it to go. It just expands very easily, right? We all know that at this point. And so, and then that cycle continues if you continue to eat the same. The other thing that happens is it's actually not your fault while you're hungry, because once that insulin resistance is caused, that leads to something else. So we have something called leptin, leptin. And that is usually what tells our body to stop eating. It tells our body when we're full. That the receptors for that also get messed up with insulin resistance. So what happens is the leptin is elevated, trying to tell your body to tell you to stop eating, right? To tell you that your body is full. But when it's elevated for extended periods of time, then it does the same thing as the insulin. The receptors for the leptin start to turn down their response. And therefore, they're not responding. And therefore, you keep getting the signal that you're not full. So you keep eating, right? So, what's at the root of that, though, is the insulin resistance, right? And we have to be more mindful. This is what I'm telling you. Yes, in menopause, yes, your estrogen is going to kind of set you up for that. But that means that you have to become more mindful of how you eat, how you go about your choices, and all of those type things, so that you can make an effect. And you have to be way more serious about it. That's how come exercise by itself does not work. It actually doesn't typically work by itself anyway, but when we're younger, our bodies are more responsive, right? And we can burn that off because we're younger, and we're moving around more, we're doing more intense things and what have you. As we get older, that's actually changing, right? For guys, as you go into this same time, no, we don't call it menopause for you, although menopause probably more applies to you than it does to us. But anyway, we're not going to go there. But what happens is as you gain more, increase the fat that's on your body, the fat cells actually are a source of estrogen production. So you actually end up with the same problem that we end up with, because your estrogen is now higher and it's creating this cycle. So it really is not, it's really important actually for you to go for your regular physical exams. And I know a lot of people, probably even women, kind of, oh, he gets, what does he need testosterone for or whatever? Well, actually you do, because after the age of 40 for men, testosterone starts to decrease. And now that's actually creating that cycle of, now you can gain more fat because your estrogen is now increased in proportion to what it was before when your testosterone. So your testosterone is going down and your estrogen is elevating. And now you're in that estrogen kind of cycle of the insulin resistance and depositing fat, right? And then the whole leptin thing. So your body's not shutting down. So this is where it becomes really important for you to realize is not only changing your eating and what you're eating, you actually have to be very aware of your behavior, and the choices that you're making and the habits and what leads you to your habits. So a lot of people say they're emotional eaters. If they're happy, they're sad, they're social eaters, whatever the case may be. You have to become more aware of that and make your choices based on what's going to happen with your body. Otherwise, it's not going to change. Now, some of those things, yes, can be aided by getting some help from docs. As far as for the guys, you can go get testosterone. A lot of times with the side effects with menopause, women need some hormone as also so to level them out, and that also can help. But you still need to change the other things. You still need to have things that support you. I'm definitely an advocate for vitamins, for having multivitamin, for you to give you nutrients that you need so that you actually suppress your cravings and hunger. Because if you have nutrients that you need in your body already, then you're not going to have those same type of cravings because your body's not looking for anything for it to fulfill, right? So extremely important, for you to realize this. And I wanted to share that with you because as we talk about, I'm definitely, a proponent for detoxing now. That's a very recent thing. Even though I've been a doctor for so long, for 27 years, really in the last 2 years is when I realized the value of detoxing. I used to help people detox in a different way, and I still do that part as far as, stop eating this, stop eating that, to detoxify your body that way. But then we have other ways to do that there, and I'm not going to go into any products. Definitely, if you want to find out more information about how I do that and support people, women and men, in getting their body right. I do that through my weight management. And actually, if you think that your weight is too low, I can help you with that as well. I'm sorry, I went after the dog, so I'm sweating. I'm sorry. Hopefully it's perspiring instead of sweating, and it looks better than sweating. But anyway, so this is really, really important. And so it didn't happen overnight, how your belly got like that. So it's not going to go away overnight. The fast fixes are not going to fix it long term unless you change your nutrition, how you go about your nutrition, how you support your body, how you move your body, and how you continue to make your choices over time in whatever environment. We think that we can live holiday to holiday, event to event, and we cannot, because there will always be a wedding, there will always be a funeral, there will always be a graduation, there will always be a birthday, there will always be something that is going on, a holiday party. Christmas is coming every year, okay? Thanksgiving is coming every year. So you can't make your choices based on that. So now is the time for you to take control of your body. Now is the time for you to take control. Just because I said those things happen in nature does not mean that you cannot actually put some control over it and that you can't make any changes. Just like people say, oh, it's genetic. My mom was like that. My dad was like that. My mom had diabetes. My dad had diabetes. Grandma, everybody. Well, guess what? That's because you all were in the same environment. You learned how to eat how they were eating. You learned to do the same type of things that they were doing. And you continue to do that too, because that's how we learn and we don't even realize it. Now that I've told you, you are aware. And so although it wasn't your fault before, guess what? Now you have to take responsibility. So, but I am here. I can support you in that. If you have any questions, definitely my number is there on the, I didn't put it, but I will put it in the comments there so that you do have access to it. Hey, Cammie from Jamaica, all the way from Jamaica. Hey. Good to see you. And I thank you all for joining in the middle of the afternoon. But I just thought that this was super, super important. I think I need to share more information, and I think I'm going to be doing that more regularly. So please look out for that. Look out for me coming more often to share some health tips and how to move forward, in your health journey, whatever that is. And I think I started just saying, if you actually think that you need to gain weight, but need to gain good weight and not just weight just in general, definitely reach out to me and I can certainly help. Hey, Marcia, welcome. You're so welcome. So I thank you all for tuning in. My number is a textable business number. It's 407-674-5725. My website is www.cfiweightloss.com. If you have a question and you prefer to put your contact information in there, then that's perfectly fine. But certainly I'm here to help. And even if you're using good products and you feel like you're stuck and you need to move forward, you need to make some bigger jumps in your health, then definitely still reach out to me, because I will support you, and we can figure out a plan that works for you. Okay. Yeah. JA all the way. Hey, both of my parents are Jamaican, so I'll take those flags, Cammie. So I'm a Jamaican all the way through. Um, all right. Well, you all have a great afternoon. Hopefully this wasn't too long. Hopefully the information is good for you. I know the dog and the bird took up some of my time, but God bless all of you, and let's get healthy. Let's do it before the holidays. You can make such a difference and feel so different before you get into the holidays. All right. This is Dr. Nicole Bramwell signing off.